If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content every week. So sign up, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. And now, here's the podcast. Welcome everybody. It's episode 372 of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, joined today by the TJ Reid of Irish Mixed Martial Arts Media, Graham MacDonald, as we look ahead to a massive weekend in the world of mixed martial arts next week, which we will do from the top of the show, and then we will look back on the fights from last night as well. Next week there's big UFC London, Cage Warriors London, also Bellator, so we will have a look at all of them as well. But before we get into all of that, we must tell you that this episode is presented by our great friends over at All Real Nutrition. If you haven't heard of All Real Nutrition, they are a really great Irish company with the best protein products on the market. So they do protein bars, they do peanut butter and all the stuff like that. Check them out over at eatallreal.com. They're a Kerry company, really good Irish. Niall, who runs the company, is a massive SevereMMA fan, so he's one of us. Help this guy out, help his company out. Support Irish, support eatallreal.com. You can get 15% off with the code SevereMMA over at eatallreal.com. So they do real food ingredients with high quality protein and a great taste. I have one here on my desk. They've been a sponsor of our live stream for the last year, and myself and Ian and all the lads absolutely love them as well. They're a plastic-free and home-compostable wrappers. It's very good for the environment. They've saved over 4 million bottles from entering the ocean. And also as well, they taste great. They've over 900 5-star reviews, and they deliver anywhere in Europe. So use that promo code SevereMMA. Get yourself 15% off at eatallreal.com. They have them in Tesco now and other places as well. They're great. But why would you do that when you can get them to deliver to your own home, and you can get 50% off them as well? So use that promo code SevereMMA and go to eatallreal.com. Support Irish, support All Real Nutrition, and support your fellow SevereMMA podcast buddy Niall over there. He does an absolutely great job, and he's been a great supporter of us and our live streams for the last year or so, and we're delighted to have him on as a sponsor here for the next few weeks as well. Great company, and I support him. You should support him. We should all support him. Right, Graham, let's get straight into the fights from next week, and I want to talk about the UFC first, because it's a big night for UK MMA again. It only feels like a few weeks ago that we had the other, UFC London, and now we're back, and Paddy Pimblett's back, and Tom Aspinall's back, and Molly McCann is back, and Paul Craig is back, and I people were talking about it at the time as like the UFC Dublin was for Ireland. This is for the UK, and I'm not necessarily sure it is that, or it will become that. They will need to produce like a big star for it, I suppose, to be looked back on like that. But do you know what this is? This is like a card where you look at an old card from years ago. You often pull up like the Cage Contenders or the old Battle Zones or something, and you might see like 6 or 7 Bellator fighters on it, and you look at 6 or 7 guys who went to the top of Cage Warriors or went to the UFC, and this feels like a card where there's lots of actually the local talent that we saw coming up. I remember talking about Paul Craig going to fight Carl Moore on this podcast. We talked about Molly McCann. We talked about, interviewed Paddy Pimblett, the Callie Stephen, the lads from when he was a boy. And, the same could be said. I remember looking up Nathaniel Wood fights when he was preparing for
Mark Jacasey. We've been covering him since before he fought in the UFC and made video about him. And it definitely feels like, we've been on a bit of a journey with a few of these guys.
And it's great to see, because sometimes you're looking at fighters on the way up, and we'll talk about Cage Warriors as well later on. You're like, will they make it? Will they get to the UFC? And this kind of card actually, I think, gives you an indication that they will. And it must be great for the guys coming up and the ladies as well to see, people like this. It must be great for the likes of Sean O'Bannon to look at Molly McCann and see where she's gone. Must be great for, Pal Lahan or Paul Hughes or whoever it might be, to see these sort of people who are fighting on the same level, the same cards, and now they're at this point of their career. Now, that is great, and there's obviously the UK MMA scene has way more gyms and a bigger population. Now there's got to be more than the Irish scene as well, but the Irish scene was very, very different and more compact. Like, I'm from Limerick and there's people from Cork and you're from Dublin and the lads from the north and over in Galway, and we kind of all came together in the one, where it's a little bit different in the UK. And I think a lot of that is based on, you know, football and the Premier League and all. Like, it's very hard for a Manc to support Paddy Pimblett, I'm sure. Although I'm sure a few of them do, but like, the London people support the London people, the Liverpool people support the Liverpool people. And now it's not just that. I'm not saying if you're from London you won't support Paddy Pimblett or anything like that, but it is a little bit more divided than it is in Ireland. But we see, you know, with Paddy and with Molly especially, that Liverpool fan base that they have is absolutely massive. And I think if they keep putting on cards like this, where there are all different people from different parts of the country and they have it in London and everyone travels, I think that'll actually be built more. And that's the thing, that the consistent fights all the time with the consistently same people that can become stars to the people going to see it in London, I think that's really good and might actually help that kind of disjointed scene. Is that something? I know you've travelled over to cards in the UK before, Graham, and obviously watched a lot of them. And I always remember it's your man, the lad in KSW, you know, who's from Leeds, and all these fans going Yorkshire, and you know, it's a bit different in the UK than it is here or anywhere else in the world, maybe, isn't it?
Yeah, I think part of it is probably the size of the UK and the fact that it's kind of divided into like Scotland and Wales and England, and also the fact that kind of, you know, Ireland is a smaller country. Maybe it says something that, you know, the closest port to Dublin is Liverpool, and you're kind of saying it's the same atmosphere over there, and many people would have went over on boats many years ago there. So maybe that's part of the kind of culture that's rubbed off on the Liverpoolians. But yeah, Paddy and Molly definitely have the support. You see, even, you know, the support they've got from the Scousers has kind of bled over. You see them on the, what's that thing called with Gary Neville?
The overlap.
The overlap. Sorry, it was just slipping my mind there. Yeah, you know, that's been like, you know, people like Stephen Gerrard, Thierry Henry, people like that, you know, top footballers, and kind of, you know, to see Paddy Pimblett on there, the shows really, you know, a few years ago, that would have been a pipe dream. And when we started covering this game, you know, for such a big platform to be kind of taking it seriously, and for like, you know, Sky Sports, who've kind of been very reluctant over the years to kind of dip their toes into MMA, so especially the UFC. So yeah, it's definitely, you know, it seems like everything's rising up for the UK scene. And, you know, you mentioned a few people on the card, like even like Nicholas Dalby, who's fought on the UK scene for a while. People have been following him, you know, even though he's a European fighter, he kind of seems like, you know, he's very familiar to the crowd. And obviously Jai Herbert and Wood and Jacasey and all are hometown guys. So throughout the whole card, I could see this being, you know, a great atmosphere early, and that can only help the card.
100%. Let's talk about Paddy Pimblett first of all, because I know he's the co-main. He's not even the co-main event. He's the third fight up now. It shows here now. Maybe that will change by this time next week. But what's your take on Paddy Pimblett, Graham? I feel like I've given my take so many times over the years about Paddy Pimblett, and
so have I. I think we both. Yeah, well, like, you know, he's obviously a really exciting fighter in terms of, you know, his fights always seem to be action packed, and even if he's on the feet, he's kind of going for it, even if it's maybe not it's been proven in the past it's really not the best avenue for him to go to, but he's taken a few hard shots and he's kept going. And you know, that style's gonna, if he doesn't tighten that up, I think that style's gonna catch up with him pretty quick as he goes up the levels. But, you know, when he comes in here against Jordan Levitt, I think Jordan Levitt isn't really bringing, you know, a string of KOs or big knockout power that we've seen. So, like, if Paddy Pimblett plays it safe here, he should have his, you know, advantage on the ground, I'd say. So should have his way here. But overall for Paddy Pimblett, you know, I think the matchmaking has been very good by the UFC. Obviously, they see the interest around him and the kind of hype that he's built over the years, and the Cage Warriors have helped him build. And obviously the support from the Scousers, as we mentioned, is obviously kind of, they're planning this one out, when we've kind of accused the UFC matchmakers or the UFC brass of not really kind of having a plan for these guys that are coming in. It seems they do with Paddy, and they seem to be putting him on a kind of road of fights that they think he can win, and they think he can look good and kind of improve. And you hear things from Paddy about, you know, in the past he's had problems with weight cuts and weight gain, and you hear him again talking about how big he gets, and that would be a little bit of a worry. You know, we kind of heard him say before, I don't know how many years ago, that he was kind of putting that behind him and he was taking it more seriously, and he was getting the professionals involved in his nutrition and his weight cut, but he seems to just, you know, binge and not stop until he needs to get back into shape for a fight. So that's definitely going to hinder you as well. Like, you know, you want to be in the gym, you want to be sharpening your skills and improving. You don't want to be worried about cutting weight the whole time. So yeah, as he goes up the levels, he's going to have to, you know, take things a little bit more seriously, I think.
I think the biggest issue with that, like, let's say John Jones did that, right? He took a month off between fights and he ballooned up. You know, let's say if he was still fighting at 205, he ballooned
Anthony
up.
Johnson used to do it all the time, no?
But like, but let's say with John Jones, right? At least John Jones, he has all the skills in the world, right? That if he can get down, get fit again, and get his timing down, we know he has it all. Paddy Pimblett's not that yet. Even though he's 21 fights into his career, you think he should be that. He's not. Like, he still has a lot to learn and a lot to do and lots of improvements to make if he wants to climb through the UFC ranks. And like, having a couple of weeks, you know, eating a lot of donuts and stuff, it's not, you know, people maybe overblow it a little bit. It's not going to be the biggest thing in the world. But when I actually saw, it was on the overlap with Gary Neville, where he talked about he wasn't expecting to fight until September or October, and now it's what, 2 to 3 months before that he's fighting again. That's a big difference. Like, in terms of getting the weight down, no, I think it's grand. But in terms of learning new skill sets and improving yourself, the 2 weeks you spent eating is going to lead to probably another few weeks getting it off, and then it's going to be all preparation for the fight itself, rather than, you know, spending that 3 or 4 weeks maybe learning some new thing, maybe going out to America and, you know, training in the gym. And I know he was out in America for a while, but I think that can be a big difference to people like Paddy Pimblett, who need to make improvements, and that would be the one worry I have for him there. But maybe the fact that it was short notice made him get back to life kind of quicker than, not short notice, but a quicker turnaround than maybe he wanted, made him get back to life quicker, and maybe that binge wasn't as big as you think it would be. But the fight against Jordan Levitt is a very interesting one. Levitt is not the greatest striker in the world, but he can strike. Very good wrestler, very strong. I don't think he's the best fight IQ in the world, but if he gets into a position where he can pick Paddy up and slam him, Paddy will be in trouble there. But the problem is Paddy loves that position because he loves, you know, triangles and going for flying triangles and stuff like that. If Paddy pulls a flying triangle against Jordan Levitt, he could very well get knocked out. He very well could. I don't think that's the smartest thing in the world. It's like they're both in their best positions. So I'll be interested to see. Like, the thing with this one is, I think if Paddy can stop Levitt wrestling him, I think he'll win. You know, I think if Paddy can get on top, if he can get into the advantageous jiu-jitsu positions on the ground, he'll end up submitting him. On the feet, I think Levitt is more careful and he's fought better strikers than Paddy and won. But Paddy does hit hard, even though he's not a great striker. He's been training in a boxing gym. I'm sure he's improving. He's looked better over his last 2 fights, but still, anyone looking at him will know he's not the best striker in the world. So there are, without a shadow of a doubt, there are ways for Jordan Levitt to win this fight. But I would favour Paddy, and I think again it's probably good matchmaking. You have a guy who's 10-1 here, but probably stacks up pretty well against Paddy in numerous different areas. And as you said, the UFC are matching him very, very well. We see, like, some other guys. I talked to Jai Herbert the other day. He's on this card as well. It's a bit of a better matchup this time. But the matchmaking Jai Herbert got and the matchmaking Paddy Pimblett got are absolutely night and day. So, you know, it's massive.
But do you think it's like 90% personality, or do you think it's more... Do you think there's a good part of it that is that he's kind of open on the feet, or he's willing to exchange and he's exciting and his fight's going to... Anything could happen, or do you think that's kind of just secondary?
Look, I think... On Jai Herbert's part, right, it is just he was unlucky. He was a Cage Warriors champion coming through and they knew he was very good. Paddy Pimblett's the same, right? And even more, he has more fights and more experience and all that. But the fact that Paddy Pimblett has this following and he has this personality and all, and, you know, Sean Shelby and them guys aren't fools. They know, and they look at Paddy Pimblett and they know he's not the finished article. maybe never will be, in my opinion. I don't think he ever will be good enough to be a UFC champion. But they realise if we can get Paddy Pimblett through the next maybe 2 years or so, put him into a big fight in, whether he wins it or loses it, there's probably going to be a lot of money on the table for the UFC, and he's probably going to be a big star for them. And even now, you know, if he wins, let's say he wins 3 fights in a row, they move him on a bit. Even if he loses, then he gets a pushback, wins another 2, people will still, you know, will still be following Paddy. They'll still be fans of him. Losses don't mean as much in mixed martial arts as they once were. So they are pushing him, and they are giving him easier matchups because he's going to come out and he's going to talk shite. He's going to, you know, sell cards. He puts bums on seats. He absolutely does. There's no shadow of a doubt about that. And if they could get Paddy Pimblett like onto a pay-per-view card or into a big fight, I think he would do very, very well for them. I don't think Paddy Pimblett has the ability to be a top fighter in the UFC. Maybe a 155, a ranked fighter even. I would not say that either, but maybe close. And if they can get him up there and build a hype with him, that's brilliant for Paddy, and it's brilliant for the UFC because there's a lot of money on the table there. But it's very interesting. I don't think we've seen this before with Sage Northcutt, and they tried to do it with Paige Van Zandt as well, and they were not able to do it. They absolutely weren't able to do it. Now Paddy is better than the two of them, but will he be able to do it? Will he be the one they'll be able to do it with? It's interesting, and that's why I said the very first fight Paddy Pimblett came into the UFC. The next year, 2 years, 3 years with Paddy and how they match him and how it goes for him are going to be so interesting and so entertaining. It's going to be really, really fun. And I wish the best for Paddy. Like, I'm wrong, and I hope he goes on and becomes a ranked fighter and improves a lot and becomes a champion. Because, you know, it's probably money in my pocket, if we're being honest, and your pocket and everyone. Because Paddy Pimblett being the biggest star in MMA now would be brilliant for all of us because he's hilarious. And look, he says some weird things and some bad things and so, but sure, everyone fucking does in mixed martial arts. But at the end of the day, he's a great character. He's fun. Even though he's from Liverpool, you know, and supports Liverpool. Do you know, he always says Scousers don't get knocked out, and he's dead right. They just get the finals and don't score. So he's I've been waiting for that one. I had that one in the back pocket, but yeah, it's very it's fun watching the rise of Paddy Pimblett, and I can't wait to see it. Let's talk about the main event a little bit. I don't think this is a great fight for Tom Aspinall, honestly, against Curtis Blaydes. I think it's a really bad matchup for him. And this could be one of those, you know, we've been at him recently, Graham, or I have anyway, in Dublin, where the hometown guy loses in the main event. And, you know, we see James lose. We've seen Peter Queally lose, obviously, for the title as well. And there is a very weird feeling leaving that building. Now, Tom Aspinall could win this fight, absolutely. It's a relatively even fight. I'd probably put it 60-40 to Blaydes, in my opinion. Now, I might be wrong, and I don't know the bookies' numbers out yet, but it's a very tough fight and very tough matchmaking. You know, he's definitely not getting the Paddy Pimblett treatment, and he hasn't got it over his last few fights as well, which I've kind of complained about. But look, the fact that he has fought such good guys over the last while, you can't fight Volkov, Spivak and Arlovsky and not get a bit of a push. So Curtis Blaydes is just about the right level. I probably would have rather seen a Tai Tuivasa or a Derek Lewis or someone like that in a bit of an easier matchup. I think this is a very tough one. What do you think of the main event, or do you think I'm calling it wrong?
Well, yeah, I definitely think it's a step up in competition for Tom Aspinall, but you know, he's looked pretty comfortable, pretty at ease throughout his UFC career. Even going back to his Cage Warriors days, he's looked pretty composed in there, and you know, Curtis Blaydes is definitely a step up in competition, as I said, and he definitely offers some problems that he hasn't faced before, that Tom hasn't faced before, but I think it's a kind of a step up. Well, like, you know, when Curtis Blaydes has stepped up previously in competition, he's kind of lost quite badly. I know it's Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis, and they're big hitters, and you know, the first fight with Ngannou was a doctor stoppage with the eye, which obviously was unfortunate, but he still got his eye busted open, you know. So you know, it's definitely Tom Aspinall and Chris Daukaus is definitely a different prospect than Tom Aspinall, but Tom Aspinall doesn't seem like the kind of guy who is going to feel the pressure of kind of main event, big card, like raucous crowd. Maybe he will, maybe I'm wrong, but he just seems composed and relaxed to me, and he seems like he's very comfortable for a guy like, you know, going in there against guys who can, at heavyweight, that can put you out with one shot. But he'll have to be careful here. Obviously, he doesn't want to get put on his back either. But he's shown some good jiu-jitsu skills in the past. But Curtis Blaydes will obviously come out with a good game plan here. It is a tough one to call, but I would expect Tom Aspinall to have enough to get it done, and I wouldn't be surprised if he got it done with his hands early.
It could, yeah. And Curtis Blaydes has been caught before. There's no shadow of a doubt about that. I just think, like, Aspinall is very good jiu-jitsu and all of that as well, but I think he's going to need to use his striking to stop the takedowns here, like Derek Lewis did. Throw that uppercut when he comes in, make him pay. Once it gets to the ground, I don't think Aspinall's jiu-jitsu is going to save him against Blaydes' wrestling. Over 5 rounds as well, if Blaydes can keep taking him down over the first 3, going to be very tough for Aspinall to still have the gas in the tank to get that big knockout in the 4th or 5th round. So it's a very interesting matchup, and it'll prove, like, I think Aspinall is championship material, honestly, but he's still only 14 fights into his career, still a very, very young career, and them 14 fights, they haven't necessarily been rushed. He's been a pro since 2014. So he's been around for a while, but still it feels like a lot of it has come over the last couple of years. He had 2 years out of the cage as well between 2017 and 2019. He was doing, or 2016 and 2019, almost 3 years. He was doing a bit of boxing in the middle of that as well. So it's very interesting to see where this fight is won, where this fight goes. And I think if it does stay on the feet, you'd obviously have to favour Aspinall, and maybe you can catch him on the way down. Maybe it's a guillotine. I was talking to Harry the other day. We have a podcast coming out saying, and I kind of said, and I think Harry was agreeing as well, that the use of the Kimura to sweep is something we don't see in MMA as much anymore, because it doesn't really work as a finishing manoeuvre anymore. But I think if Aspinall hits the ground here and Blaydes on top of him, he needs to be doing something like that. Get on a fucking Kimura. It's a big man manoeuvre, at heavyweight. It'll force Blaydes to move and force him to, you sweep him with it, get on the fucking feet and get back up. I think that's the sort of thing Aspinall needs to do immediately here. If he lets Blaydes stay on top of him,
you're tying up your arms, and if you're on the bottom trying to pull Kimuras against big guys like Curtis Blaydes. No, I'm not saying.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying to pull a Kimura. I'm saying if you do get taken down on the way down, catch that fucking Kimura and sweep him and immediately get back up. Yeah. I'm by no means saying pull guard or go for a Kimura or anything like that, but I think like Jose Aldo back in the day, right? Jose Aldo probably got taken down 20 times in the UFC, but he never got kept down. He'd fall to he'd get
Mark Hominick disagrees.
Well, yeah, that's true, but like
his baby and his alien baby in his head.
Alien baby head, yeah. He'd get to a post, or he'd get to his knees or push the head down and get straight back up. That's what Aspinall needs to do in this fight, I fully believe. It'll be interesting to see if he can do it, but it's a fun fight. Chris Curtis is now stepping in to fight Jack Hermansson. That was supposed to be Darren Till. That's a fun fight. Honestly, a big matchup again for Chris Curtis, who has had maybe the best resurgence of a career of a kind of a middling UFC fighter that we've seen in a long time. He's won a lot of fights in a row now, going from fighting in the PFL in 2019, losing 3 fights in a row to Magomed Karimov twice, and then to Ray Cooper to come in to win fights against the likes of Phil Hawes, Brendan Allen, Kenny Robertson, and last time out only a couple of weeks ago against Rodolfo Vieira. So this is a big fight for him. Hermansson, a very tough task. But there's been many tough tasks put up against Chris Curtis over the last while, and he's won it. Big fight as well. Nikita Krillov versus Alexander Gustafson. It feels like Gustafson kind of retired. He went to heavyweight for a while. He came back. He fought Verdum in 2020, but now he's back again. He was supposed to fight Craig. He was supposed to fight Rothwell, but he is fighting Nikita Krillov, which is it's probably a good fight for him to come back. Krillov is a good fighter, a well-rounded fighter, but not amazing in any one area. Gustafson at his best, I think, takes Krillov out all the time.
At his best, but like when you've already kind of been retiring and talking about retiring very seriously and thinking about it, that's definitely a factor here. But surely Alexander Gustafson has enough here. I'm just looking at the odds here. And Gustafson is an underdog.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's a bit mad to me. Obviously, not really being as in love with the game and kind of, you know, all the reasons why he retired in the first place is definitely a factor. But, you know, Krylov, he's had some shocking performances mixed in with some decent ones, but I don't see him having enough here for Gustafson. If Alexander doesn't win here, he should retire and stay retired.
All right, Naz, calm down. You should finish. But yeah, you're probably right. Now that you have the odds open there, what's the odds for the main event? Who's the favourite to win that one?
It's real close, but Aspinall's slight favourite, -125, and Curtis Blades +105. So it's basically a pick 'em.
And spoiler alert, that's probably one of my bets for the week next week. But yeah, looking forward to it. Molly McCann then against Hannah Goldie. Molly's been on a good run. You know, she was on that thing with Gary Neville as well. Hannah Goldie coming off a win against Emily Whitmire after losing 2 in a row before that. You know, she's a couple of wins. One especially, she won by armbar last time out, and she looked good in winning that. So I'm sure, look, Molly, as she said in that piece with Gary Neville, she wants to keep the fight on the feet. She wants to land big shots, and if she can do that against Goldie, I think she will win the fight. Paul Craig.
Oh, just before you go on, when you were watching Gary Neville plod down the right hand side as a young boy supporting Man United, did you ever think he'd be coming for your job and taking interviews?
He can fucking have it.
Doing them better than you.
He can have it. Do you know what? Did you watch it?
No, I didn't. I just saw a little teaser thing of it, and I didn't see the full video.
It wasn't that great, honestly. I think it was his worst one so far, and I love that show. But maybe that's because it's me, and maybe because
maybe you know, Gary Neville's football knowledge and kind of takes are kind of what make him interesting, I suppose. Even if you agree or disagree with his takes.
Yeah, the fact that there was 2 people on it though as well was a bit weird. You know, he was kind of asking Paddy a question, and then Paddy'd answer for 3 minutes, and he asked Molly the same question. It was hard to flow. That's a very, very hard thing to do. So yeah, I think if it was just Paddy or just Molly, it probably would have been a bit better. It wasn't bad or anything. No, it's definitely worth watching. But yeah, it was a bit of a weird one, you know. But still, it was great exposure for both of them. I think they both came out of it looking pretty well anyway. And look, people will be probably tuning in after watching it, so it's a good thing. Massive fight again for Paul Craig against Volkan Ozdemir here. You know, Volkan has been around for a long time. He's been hit and miss, if we're being honest. Paul Craig's been on a great run. He beat the aforementioned Krillov. He beat Jamahal Hill, Shogun Hua, Antigulov. He drew with obviously Shogun before that as well, but he has some great wins. He's beaten Muhammad Ankalaev, where people are talking about it being possibly the next title challenger as well. So I don't think Paul Craig gets the recognition he deserves. He's coming in against Ozdemir, who just lost Ankalaev and who just lost to Prohachka. Even this matchmaking is it's a bit disrespectful to me. And I think Paul Craig, at least he's on the main card of this. You know, looking at the card so far, you'd never know by the end of the week he mightn't be, but I really like Paul Craig, and I think he deserves a lot more. I think he deserves a lot more than he's getting, to be honest. But I don't know. Having said that, can Paul Craig...
I was going to say, having said that, who are you picking?
I'd probably picking Craig. Who are you picking?
You know, with a Paul Craig fight, it's really hard to know. Probably what's going to happen is he's going to get either TKO'd or knocked out, or he's going to get nearly TKO'd or knocked out, and he's going to pull out some kind of choke or triangle. It's
going to be fun.
You know, there's something crazy's going to happen. But yeah, I think... I don't think it's that disrespectful, because Ozdemir kind of does have a bit of a name. You know, he's been a title contender before and things like that. So if it was somebody, maybe, you know, if it was Ozdemir and he hadn't kind of got to a title shot and hadn't kind of got that name recognition, then maybe. But like, if a win by Paul Craig here over Ozdemir would be a big win for him, I think. Yeah,
it would, but I still think it's a bit disrespectful. Anyway, there's some great fights after this, and I really love that Nathaniel Wood versus Charles Rosa fight. I think it's a very good winnable fight as well for Nathaniel Wood. I think that's good matchmaking. Mark Chikasi is fighting Damir Handzovic. Chikasi obviously had a great win over Slava Borashev last time out.
Who knew he could wrestle? I hope we have to listen to that for 15 minutes.
Yeah, that was the... Jeez, I hope DC is not here anyway. But Handzovic beat Yancy Medeiros by unanimous decision last time out. That was over a year ago as well. So a good matchup here. You know, Hadzovic has knocked out Paulo Reyes. He's, you know, he's knocked out Marcin Held and others as well. So that should be two strikers who can't do anything else fighting in that one, according to Daniel Cormier, I'm sure. So it should be fun. Ireland's own Makwan McCann, he's fighting Jonathan Pierce. Mohamed Makayev, the greatest amateur of all time, returns as well. He's fighting Charles Johnson. My guy Jai Herbert, who I interviewed a couple of days ago, he's fighting Kyle Nelson. That's just a very fun fight. Kyle Nelson comes to fight and he pushes you against the cage and tries to bang you out there, and we know how good Jai Herbert is, so definitely looking forward to that.
I think this is a very important fight for Jai Herbert to go out there and win impressively. Like, you know, the UFC haven't shown much love to him, and if he goes out there and loses here, you know, he could end up getting cut. So I think this is actually a really big fight for Jai Herbert. I expect him to go in there and win, but the pressure's really on here.
Yeah, a huge fight for him. Looking forward to it. Mandy Bowman's fighting Victoria Leonara. Ireland's on Mandy Bowman as well, isn't it, if I'm not mistaken? Ireland's on Nicholas Dalby at one stage as well. He used to fight out of SPG. He's fighting Claudia Silva. And a fight just made a couple of hours ago, I think, Ludovic Klein against Mason Jones. Glad to see Mason getting on the card as well. So that is a fun fight and a really good card. Honestly, lots of local talent. Lots of guys. I'm really looking forward to seeing Joy. Really looking forward to seeing Makayev. Really looking forward to seeing Nathaniel Wood and Casey and Craig and Molly and, you know, Gustafson as well, and obviously Paddy and the Cohen in the main event, and the main event is also a fantastic card there. The night before then, Graham, we have Cage Warriors 141. It's the 20th anniversary of Cage Warriors. I broke down this whole card with Brad Wharton. That's going to be out in Sherdog this week, but it's a really good card. There's two title fights here. George Hardwick is fighting Kyle Driscoll for the title vacated by Joe McColgan. The first time in, as Brad corrected me, it's not the first time one of the Americans fought here, because Jim Ehlers came over from the old Cage Warriors America to fight and win the title over here. So it's not the first time it's happened, but the first modern Cage Warriors American fighter, Kyle Driscoll, who probably should be in the UFC. He won in Dana White Contender Series before Dana was handing out contracts to everyone. He's fighting George Hardwick. He's a hard-nosed wrestler against Hardwick, who is...
have you seen much of him?
Yeah.
I haven't.
He's a good wrestler. He'll push you against the cage. He'll pull you down. Not the greatest striker in the world. Look, it's an old-fashioned striker versus wrestler matchup. If Driscoll can take him down over and over and over, he'll win the fight. If he can't, I think George Hardwick will probably knock him out on the feet. I think Hardwick has improved an awful lot as well with his takedown defense and in the clinch and stuff. We saw him last time out against Lucas Capera, who I don't know, is he a better wrestler than Kyle Driscoll, but I think he is a more domineering wrestler than Driscoll, and he won that fight and he ended up finishing him. So I would definitely favour Hardwick here, but if that style of wrestling doesn't work out well for Hardwick, Driscoll could win decisions 5 rounds as well, which is a massive thing. Like, George Hardwick is prepared, as Brad said, for 3 5-round fights in a row now. None of them ended up happening. Well, hopefully this one will, but that could be a big thing as well for him here. So a very interesting one. And then Sam Creasy against Dylan Hazan, the Italian Hazan, who has a massive fan base over there. He's trying to go 9-0, trying to win the title. Sam Creasy lost last time out, but is still the champion because his opponent missed weight. So this is a big fight for him, a proven fight. No one wants to be the champion after losing your last fight, you know, so he'll want to beat Hazan, and Hazan one of the best up-and-comers. There's some legends of Cage Warriors, you know, Jim Wallhead, Mick Stanton on this. Stanton fighting fighting Darren Stewart, and Jim Wallhead fighting Daniel Skibinski, who gave Justin Burlinson a really tough fight and almost knocked him out last time out. That's a very good fight. Arguably fight of the weekend for me, Aggie Sardari versus Mike Figlac. What a fucking fight that is. Sardari lost to Joe McColgan, but he's gone back. He went out of Cage Warriors, got a fight outside of there, won that, and now is coming back to fight Figlac, another one who you could argue is the best up-and-comer in all of Cage Warriors. That's going to be a banger on the feet. I think if Sardari can get a couple of takedowns, it might be trouble for Figlac, but I think he'll struggle. Figlac is a good takedown defense. Peely against Amiable is a really fun fight. Will Curry is back here. I always love watching Kingsley Crawford fight. Nathan Fletcher and Luke Riley are both fighting out of Paddy Pimblett's gym, so they're big fights for him. Tobias Orilla, if he beats Samuel Barker, apparently there's big beef between the two of them there. Harila will be fighting for the title if he wins that. Sam Spencer against Amar Singer. Jesse O'Holland, if he beats Matters Flaminas, you could really see him fighting against Rhys McKee for the title next. He's 8-0 and an absolute beast of a fighter altogether. Lanier Kavanagh is on this card as well. O'Meal Brown is on the card. A really, really, really good card all around, and I'm looking forward to seeing anything stand out for you there, Graham. I know I've gone through it very quickly.
Fair play to you. There's about 25 fucking fights on this card.
Yeah, it's a brilliant fight.
There's a good breakdown there. Thanks. Yeah, no, I definitely think, you know, Figlac is definitely an interesting one. It's a step up in competition. Obviously, he's 7-0. He's been kind of fighting the appropriate guys the last couple of fights. It's kind of, you know, we talked about it ad nauseum about Ian Dean. You know, there's never an easy fight. You kind of, you know, there's a lot of thought and care put into most, if not all, of these matchups. And, you know, looking up and down the card, you know, there's some really, really good fights. The card may be a little bit long for my liking. I've talked about it in the past. I prefer a little bit of a shorter card, maybe between like 9 and 11 fights. But with the Cage Warriors pacing, the way they pace their cards, it won't be a problem, or usually isn't a problem anyway. If you get the kind of
one or two will probably fall out during fight week as well. If we're being honest,
and if you get the average, if you get the average amount of kind of finishes as well, and they're not loads of decisions, it'll fly by. So, yeah, I think I'm interested in. I'm most interested, like you, in the Figlac fight, but there's definitely, you know, some really good matchups on the card. Just the main event, and I like, you know, maybe it's my ignorance, but Kyle Driscoll, you know, isn't really a known quantity to me, so I'm kind of not as interested in that as I would be for most Cage Warriors main events.
What I think is good about it though is, like, I haven't watched any of the Cage Warriors American cards, and this might be a good way of kind of,
to me, in my head or something, they don't seem like they're really Cage Warriors.
Yeah, me too.
Or something. I don't know.
I understand. But if they have the Cage Warriors title, let's say he wins and the Cage Warriors title is over there, we're kind of not forced to watch it, but I'd be more interested in watching that, you know. And then,
it's like Raw and SmackDown. Just take the title and head off to the States.
That's it, yeah.
Oh, them damn Americans that got our title.
He should be jumping over the barricade with an American flag on his back.
Lads, on the jet, we're going over to get it back.
Indeed. It should be fun though. Great card. It's a 20-year anniversary of Cage Warriors as well, and, you know, maybe next week we'll talk a little bit more about Cage Warriors and what the 20 years have meant. But it's you know, been a great organisation, and this is a very, very fun card as well. Bellator have a pretty good card as well next week. Few fights have fallen out of it as well. We were supposed to have Patricky Pitbull versus Sydney Outlaw. It was supposed to be Adam Piccolotti versus Tafik Musayev. Vladimir Tokov was supposed to be on this card. So was Viktor Nimkov and a few more. So it's been kind of ravaged by injuries. But there's still, what we have is a pretty good card. There's a lot of really good up-and-comers. Roman Fernaldo fighting out of ATT. People probably remember him for his big flying knee when he also has a knockout via a jab, and very good lead hand fight there. He's fighting against Luis Inguez. Ahmad Magomedov. Graham, what's Jimmy Smith's favourite saying? Who used to say about it? Was it Hector Lombard or something? What you say? What was it?
About Hector Lombard, about absolutely everybody that did anything jiu-jitsu was.
Yes.
Oh, I rolled with him during the week. It's like rolling with a fire hydrant.
Yes, that's
absolutely everybody.
That's exactly what Ahmed Magomedov is. He's like a fucking fire hydrant. Kaika Maka, he's a good fighter. He actually follows me on Twitter, so best of luck to him. But Magomedov is going to win this. He's one of the next guys coming through. People need to keep
easy way to win favour, to curry favour with John.
Follow me on Twitter.
Follow him on Twitter.
Just follow me on Twitter. It's easy. Yeah.
Throw a like on one of his tweets, and you're golden.
Me and Alexander Rakic.
Easily flattered.
Yeah, we're like best friends. Me and Alexander Rakic. I love it. It's great. But yeah, Ethan Hughes, Kevin Hand as well. Jalen Bates, a really, really good, well-rounded fighter, 5-0. He's getting a move up. He's fighting 10-7 Mark Coates. The other big matchup here is Romero Cotton against Dalton Ross. They're both 6-0, and it's unusual for Bellator to be matching up prospects like this, but they both are very, very good prospects, and that's a brilliant fight at 185, so people need to be watching that. Devion Franklin, then, a really good heavyweight prospect, is fighting Marcelo Gomes. Lorenz Larkin is coming up here against Mohamed Berkamov, who I watched a few of his fights, Graham, and he's a really good wrestler and really good jiu-jitsu, but he is terrible on the feet. So if Lorenz Larkin can keep that standing, I think he'll bang him out of there, to be honest.
Well, if Lorenz Larkin can keep it standing and can let his shots go, which we've kind of seen in the past that maybe sometimes he doesn't. If the threat of the takedown's heavy there, he might just freeze up and throw very little, which could be a problem. You just never know which Lorenz Larkin's going to turn up. I think if he gets into his flow early and if he can kind of avoid getting taken down early, then he'd probably be okay. But if he gets taken down, I can see him being tentative on the feet and getting taken down repeatedly. It could be a problem.
We've another one of them in the main event. We'll talk about that when we get there. But yeah, I agree with you there. This could be a stinker. But I do think, Jesus, maybe I'm wrong in Berkamov. I've only watched maybe 2 or 3 of these fights, but God, I haven't been impressed from what I've seen on the feed. An old dinger on the ground, absolutely. But I think Larkin is good enough takedown defense to open up his hands a little bit and land, should be fun. Great fight as well, Usman Nurmagomedov. It feels like there's been a shitload of Nurmagomedovs fighting over the last while. He's fighting Chris Gonzalez, obviously, if you're called Nurmagomedov, you're a good wrestler. Chris Gonzalez is a very good wrestler as well, though. Both can strike. Also, Nurmagomedov is probably up there with Saeed as the most well-rounded Nurmagomedov, gone around the place. Really good strike and throws those big wheel kicks and throws good strikes as well as a lovely jab and a 1-2. So does Gonzalez. I think Nurmagomedov is going to have the size advantage there. But if he has been taken down. One of his fights, Mike Hamill, I think, took him down. So if Chris Gonzalez can take him down as well, maybe get on top of him, that could be a way forward for him. Chris Gonzalez is one of these bullish American wrestlers, very hard-nosed guy to be fighting against. So for Nurmagomedov, this is probably the biggest test. He fought Goichi Miuta 2 fights ago, did Gonzalez, and he lost that fight. And it's he came back and he knocked out Saeed Awad in like 36 seconds after that as well. And he beat Vladimir Tokov, who's a strong wrestler and a really well-rounded fighter. So that's a very interesting matchup for Usman Nurmagomedov, and if he can come through that, he'll be going towards the top of that division as well. At the top of that division, obviously, is Patricky Pitbull. He was supposed to fight Sydney Outlaw here. Sydney Outlaw is fighting Tawfiq Musayev now, who beat Patricky Pitbull. Pretty good replacement,
isn't it?
Yeah, this guy is fucking brilliant. I don't know if you've seen him, Graham, but I watched it. He was supposed to fight a few months ago, and I watched a few of his fights, and I'm really impressed. Outlaw's a good fighter as well, but he's a bit wild and he throws mad stuff all over the place. Musayev throws mad stuff, but he leads a lot of it to takedowns and he leads a lot of it to nice, tight, technical shots on the inside. I think this is going to be a banger of a fight. What are your thoughts on Musayev after watching a bit of him?
Yeah, this is obviously it's a big blow to the card when Pitbull pulls out, but they've done a very good job of replacing him. Obviously, Musayev has a win over Pitbull back in Risen and New Year's Eve 2019, so he was out of the cage a little bit, came back in and lost, but he had a couple of fights cancelled, so it seems like he's been training he was supposed to be on this card already, and they kind of switched him in. So I expect him to be sharp. I don't expect it to be one of these he's on short notice and he's only got a limited amount of cardio to get it done in. So I think this is a really even matchup. Sydney Outlaw has only lost to Michael Chandler since 2016, and that was a split decision loss to Gregor Gillespie back in 2016. So he's been doing very well himself, and a win over Miles Jury in his last one, rear naked choke. This is a really hard one to call. As you said, he's a little bit more wild. Maybe that will be the difference. But yeah, I expect this to be a really exciting fight. I do too. I think Musayev will win it, but yeah, it's going to be a banger. The main event, I'm not sure if it's going to be a banger, if I'm being honest, because you talked about Lorenz Larkin. Yeah, my boy. Well, I like you buried the. Is he not Team Sheehan?
He is Team Sheehan, to be fair.
You're trying to bail. You're trying to.
No, I'm not. What?
Your boy.
He is my boy, Jesse Jackson. I pick him to win. I think he will win, but against Douglas Lima, it's hard to win against Douglas Lima because he kind of just stands there, throws nothing, and kind of waits for you to throw something. And then even when you do throw something, he just kind of backs up and doesn't try anything himself. In recent fights, anyway. Against really kind of tough guys recently, though. Obviously stepping up against Gegard Mousasi, and if you look before that, before those 3 losses, Rory McDonald, Michael Page, Koreshkov. Even before that, lost him. Rory McDonald, he had Lorenz Larkin. So
he's definitely better than his last 3 fights would have looked. And obviously he's coming up against somebody like Michael Venom Page, especially in his last fight, where one little mistake can be the end for you. We've seen what Michael Venom Page can do when given the opportunity. So and he'd already fought him, and he tried to play it safe, and it didn't work out. So maybe he'll try to do that again. Maybe he's kind of got into that mind frame, or maybe he'll show something different in this fight. Jason Jackson, he's been doing really well recently. Obviously, a lot of the decisions in there, but like beating Benson Henderson's a really big achievement. Even now, he's still a really well-rounded, really difficult fighter to fight against and to win rounds against. So, yeah, this is a pretty interesting fight. It could, as you say, end up being a really boring fight, depending on Lima mostly. But I see, this as like Lima will see it as like a less risky fight than maybe the last 2 or 3 or 2 of the last 3. So he might be more willing to kind of lead the dance a little bit more than we saw recently. Obviously, that was basically nil.
Yeah. I don't think so, to be honest. I think the fact this is 5 rounds as well will probably actually make him worse. But some of them ones obviously were as well. But this is the Bellator have changed, their main events to 5-minute rounds now. Look, I think Jason Jackson, what he's best at is like a really fast 1-2 right down the middle and throwing in a few takedowns as well. And honestly, I think that's what will beat Douglas Lima. Throw that 1-2 simply down through the middle and then just play it safe. Throw in a few takedowns when need be. If Lima can defend them, he'll defend them. But like Lima actually when he attacks and when he throws his jab or throws his left hook inside, he's actually like really good. Like Lima's a great fighter, but it feels like he's lost a bit of confidence, or he's not the fighter he once was anymore. And I feel like if you play it very safe against him, you can win a decision pretty handily against Lima if you have the skill set of someone like a Jason Jackson. And if you're preparing him for that fight, like why would you tell him to do anything else? Now, with that said, if Lima comes out and fights a different fight, as you suggested he might, which he absolutely might, then you're going to have to change things up if you're Jason Jackson, and that's something you're going to have to be prepared for. But if I'm looking at that and I'm Henry Hooft and the lads preparing Jason Jackson for this, I'm saying Douglas Lima is happy enough to take 1-2s down the middle all night. Give them to him, give them to him, back away out and wait for him to just wait for you again. And then come in with your 1-2 again and hop away out as quickly as you can. Get those hands up, block the counters, and win that decision. And I think like that might be a very simplistic view of it, but I think that's the way it goes. Also, if you throw in a few takedowns, it makes it a lot harder. Do you
see either guy game planning a few takedowns?
I think Jackson will, yeah, because if you're throwing those 1-2s all night down the middle, they're going to get easier to time. We all know that. But if you like fake a jab and come underneath, even if you're only pushing him against the cage, but if you take him down in the middle of the cage and put him on his arse, even better. I don't think Lima has that in his back pocket against someone as good a wrestler as Jason Jackson. So I do. I see Jason Jackson winning this fight the whole way through. But having said that, Lima has that power that he only needs one knockout, and he can carry that power as well because he doesn't expend that much energy. So it's an interesting fight. Lima needs to let his hands go a little bit more, and that's a very easy thing for me to say sat here. But if he wants to get back to that title, he wants to be the best fighter in the world. There's a champion, an interim champion at 170 at the moment, so everyone is going to be held back a little bit towards getting a title shot. And if you're Lima, you don't want to be put back even more after losing those 3 in a row. So it's a massive fight for him. It's a must-win fight for him. And for Jason Jackson to keep their run going, it's a big fight for him as well. Who do you think will win it?
Yeah, it's a hard one because I think it does depend. I think Lima does have the ability and the skills to go out there and get it done. But will he be aggressive enough? And judging off his recent fights and the fact that he's on a 3-fight skid and maybe, as you said, doesn't look as confident, that might play a factor as well. So it's a really hard one to call. Like Jason Jackson hasn't gone 5. Has Jason Jackson gone 5 rounds at all in his career?
Has that Vincent Henderson fight 5 rounds? No, he hasn't. I don't think. He's gone 3. They only just brought in the 5 rounds here.
that could play a factor as it gets deeper into the fight. Maybe Lima will try and play it safe early and kind of try and lay it on late, and try and land one impactful shot. And he definitely has the ability to do that. So this really is a fight that could go either way. Like, I'd like to say Lima. I think he has the ability to beat him. I think he's probably technically the better fighter, but I'd probably the safer bet is probably Jason Jackson.
Indeed. We leave next week's card there. Before we talk about last night's card, Graham, quickly, there a few Irish lads have signed to PFL. I suppose Will Fleury being the biggest name of them. Nathan Kelly as well has signed, and John from down in Cork, as I like to call him. What do you think of that? Especially like Will Fleury. A lot of talk, but from us and from other people as well, was that he's on the verge of the UFC. Obviously, he won the championship out in UAE Warriors, and when you do that, John Mitchell as well sorry, I didn't forget his name. But when you do that, you're on the verge of that, and he spoke about that as well. But to fight,
yeah, I was going to say, I thought he said that his goal was to get to the UFC. Yeah. I thought maybe for a second I was mixing up interviews, but
yeah, maybe those pay packets that came out last week, and
maybe he had heard like positive things and towards maybe getting a shot at the UFC, and when they reached out most recently or something like that, they weren't hearing good news and decided to go with the pay packet in PFL and the potential that's there in PFL to make a lot of money. So maybe that's part of it. Like, I'm just trying to think who's in the division in PFL in the middleweight division.
He's moving up to light heavyweight as well. So that's the thing. So and also they're starting a European series.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, he's
been looking great at middleweight recently. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's a real struggle to get down, but just how good he's been looking, it really seems to be coming together. So, moving up 20 pounds is no joke. So that could play a factor.
It's a big step to take as well when the dream UFC move is there for you. Like, I think he probably would have got signed to the UFC. Maybe it would have taken one more fight, but that middleweight division isn't great, and they need guys like in that division. And there's probably
he must have heard something that he wasn't that they weren't at it. Maybe because from what he was saying the last time we heard from him, it seemed like that's where he was focused and that's what he's working on. And one fight later, after that he signs for PFL. So yeah, maybe something has changed. I'm not sure. I have no inside information or anything. It's going to be a very interesting time for PFL till we see how it works out with this European series. Like someone like Will Fleury probably should be in the World Series, not in the European series. I'm not sure if he's going to be now or not, but he's in like a qualifier match. I'm not sure how it works yet. I'm sure we'll find out as the days come. But for Nate Kelly, I think it's a great move. I think he's done well over the last while. For John Mitchell as well, obviously lost his last fight, so to bounce back here and get a big opportunity like this. Sources have told me that there are multi-fight deals that PFL want him in. You saw Andy reporting the other day that it's not quite done yet, even though PFL have reported now. That might have changed by the time of the release of this podcast. But look, it's a big opportunity and a big change as well. We just talked about Cage Warriors. If a lot of those guys are being handed the pay packets we saw the other day from the PFL, they could very well be signing for the PFL instead of Bellator and instead of Cage Warriors. So the battle for Europe in MMA is on. It really is on, and this is going to be a massive, massive talking point over the next few years. Like the likes of some of the guys here that we see on this Cage Warriors card. Like, look at George Hardwick. Imagine if he wins this. I'm sure the UFC will want him. I'm sure Bellator will want him. I'm sure Cage Warriors will want to keep him. I'm sure PFL will want him as well in that 155 pound division. There's going to be more options for these European fighters than there ever was before. And what a time to be a European MMA podcast. And what a time to be talking about all of this and discussing it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it breaks down over the next few years. Right, just as we're about to talk about the fights from over in Long Island, Graham's electricity has gone out, so I have drafted in the next best thing, some may say, but others might say just the best thing. Ian O'Neill joins me today to finish off this here, and we'll obviously get Graham back next week and all that. Ian, do you know what? It was a pretty good night of fights, but what an unfortunate ending where you hear literally seconds after the main event ended.
it was a very weird way for a fight that was turning out to be really good to end, and a pretty good card to end as well.
Yeah, it was a pretty good card overall. I mean, a couple of great finishes throughout the card. Little bit of a slow start, but yeah, picked up in the middle and towards right up to the co-main event, and just a really disastrous way for the main event to end overall. Disappointing, and hopefully that result doesn't really take away from how good the rest of the card was.
Let's talk about the main event, I suppose so, because, you know, that was obviously, for a lot of people, and I think they might be wrong, this was a one-fight card if you're maybe watching it afterwards. For the people who did watch it live, and it was very good. You know, there was lots of good fights, so you missed out on it. But it only went, no matter, what was it? Was it only 49 seconds, if I'm wrong, or did it go 4:11? I don't know. I've about even 4:11, didn't I? Yeah. And Yair Rodriguez was destroying Brian Ortega from my vantage point anyway. Ortega was coming forward, putting on the pressure, and just the straight shots down the middle every time, whether it's a jab, whether it's the right hand, whether it's the left hand from the southpaw position, whether it was a 1-2 from southpaw or orthodox, everything, and I mean everything Yair Rodriguez threw was hitting Brian Ortega. And honest to God, I don't know how Brian Ortega survived that 4 minutes and 11 seconds. He was getting absolutely walloped with like the hardest shots that Yair Rodriguez could throw while walking straight forward into him. Now, we talked about Ortega's improved striking, and I think Harry made a great point in the previous show, and I was actually talking to him offline as well about, yeah, Ortega's striking's improved, but defensively he still has a few issues, and I think they really showed up in this. But he survived, and he got the fight to the ground, he got it to the cage a couple of times, and the fight ended with that weird shoulder injury where they were, you know, kind of grappling. Ortega was on top. Yair kind of pushed him off, and he fell back and he dislocated his shoulder. It was a very, very kind of odd one, wasn't it? Yair Rodriguez was doing well to defend on the ground, not get himself caught in any submissions, and not give up any real bad positions. But it was a very weird finish. And if you're looking at it from Ortega's point of view, he was kind of just for maybe 30 seconds or whatever in the position where you'd want him to be on the ground after getting absolutely destroyed for the rest of the round. So I personally think Rodriguez, if the fight had got back to the feet, he would have knocked him out. That's my feeling on it, but you never know until it happens. And as we said as you said in the preview, and I said in some of my previews as well, it only takes a second for Brian Ortega to catch a neck and to choke you out. So it was a very sad way for it to end altogether. What way did you see the fight playing out? Did you see it similar to me? Would I go a bit overboard?
Yeah, I thought Ortega was in it a little bit. He was trying to implement the clinch and get Yair up against the cage. Like, clearly the game plan would have had to have been switched up, and it would have been interesting to see what would have been said to Brian Ortega in between rounds, because like you said, he was just walking forward and he was just taking big shots from Yair, and there's only so much you can take. You can only rely on your toughness for so long. But, you know, unfortunately we didn't have the fight play out. It is what it is right now, and Yair gets the win. Probably to his benefit, he was looking good before the fight. It wasn't as if Brian Ortega was winning and dominating, and then the fight got stopped due to the injury. So, you know, he was celebrating as if he knocked him out with a spectacular knockout, but it wasn't that spectacular at all. It was more unfortunate than anything else.
It's poor old Yair has a few of these, doesn't he? The Jeremy Stevens one as well. Yeah, and then, you know, he has the 87 fights against Zabit that were supposed to happen. This poor guy is just, he can't really catch a break. But look, I suppose he did get the win here. Maybe they'll make the rematch. He said before if he won, he'd get a title shot. I don't think they can do that. Can't see him getting a title shot after that. No.
I think the best scenario for everyone is just to run that fight back. Yeah. Like, if he's confident that he was doing well in the fight, well, then there's no reason to think that he can't do it again in the rematch.
And I think as well, the fact that Volkanovski is out injured for a while now, if they got this back, like a dislocated shoulder can be very bad, or it can be a thing that you could be back in training next week with, like, depending on how it is. If you can run that back in the next 2 or 3 months, and be, you know, right again for the time the Volkanovski opportunity comes around, maybe 2 wins in a row against Brian Ortega is the way to do it. But
curious to think, or it'd be curious to see, maybe, just throwing something out there, if there was maybe something wrong with Ortega coming into the fight. I doubt it, but there's always a chance of that. Like, it didn't look like too big of a movement that popped his shoulder, and I know at times it doesn't take all that much either. It's just moving in the wrong direction at the wrong time and with the wrong force going against it. I know. I
saw Mark Ramondi tweeting there that Brian Ortega said he had 2 surgeries before and he's probably going to have to have a third one now. So as someone with a fucking terrible shoulder myself, I've never dislocated a touch fucking wood. Hopefully I never will. But shoulder injuries are just nasty. Like, they're just, you think they're gone and they come back again. And I know lads who've dislocated their shoulders. I think Graham has dislocated his shoulder a few times. Well, once you dislocate it once, once you hurt it once, you're going to keep hurting it for the rest of your life. There's like, there's
and I actually have a bad shoulder myself, so we're all fucked in our shoulders. The severe MMA.
We're all fucked in the shoulders. But hopefully Brian Ortega getting too fucked, and hopefully he'll be back pretty soon and they can run that back as well. Let's talk about Jack Shore altogether, rather than go down 1 or 2 fights through this. Look, the judges all 3 judges gave Ricky Simon the first round, and honestly, I don't know how Jack Shore was jabbing him up when the fight was on the outside. Simon was pushing him against the cage, landing nothing. You know, he was probably landing 1 or 2 little body shots from there. He landed 1 very nice body shot in the open, actually, the best shot he landed, but I didn't think that was half as clear as Jack Shore shots. But anyway, doesn't matter because the fight ended in the second round. And I don't know. Jack Shore is a great fighter, and I call him the best prospect out of the UK, and I still think he is. You know, there's some guys like Aspinall and Arnold Allen, who've moved to contender, positions, I suppose, and then you've Shore and Makayev and others as well. And I think he's right up there, but I don't think he fought great in the second round here. I think he made a big mistake by initiating grappling a couple of times here. Now, no problem throwing a few takedowns to, change it up and have your opponent maybe think about it. But I think he did it 1 too many times here in the second round. It gave Simon the opportunity to kind of time his grappling rather than time his striking, because if he's timing his striking, you're there naturally striking with him and you can kind of hit him back and it's going to work out better for you. Simon was timing the grappling of Shore and hit him with the right hand down through the middle, and look, the right hand is what ended it. Everyone look at this and go, he got arm triangle choked, but this is a right hand, this was a knockout. He knocked him out, he hurt him bad, gave up the back. Jack Shore wasn't Jack Shore anymore fighting there, and he ended up arm triangle choking him. But it all came from that right hand, and I think it came from the poor execution of the game plan in the second round. I actually think the first round, the game plan wasn't that great either, though, even though I gave it to him, unlike all the 3 judges. He needed to be more on his toes. He needed to be circling more. He needed to be staying off the cage more. He needed to be throwing that jab. Like Ricky Simon was giving him nothing on the feet. He landed that big shot. It was a big shot. He caught him unawares. It was a lovely shot. All credit to Ricky Simon. But before that, I didn't think he was on his level in terms of striking at all. And Jack Shore kind of gave him opportunities to grapple with him, and then he started grappling with him himself. I don't think this is necessarily poor ability. I don't think this is necessarily poor technique. I think it's poor game planning and poor execution in the fight itself. Poor maybe fight IQ as well. But it looked like it was the plan because he did it so often in the second round. What did you think of the fight itself? And obviously, great respect to Ricky Simon as well. When Dinner did what he did, but we're an Irish podcast close enough to the UK covering Jack Shore for a long time, so we're going to talk about Jack Shore a little bit more. So, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, we said it on the preview show that, Ricky Simon is a very dangerous fighter if he is on song. And like what you said, I think that Jack Shore kind of played into his game plan a little bit as well. I thought round 1, I didn't watch the fight from a scoring perspective, so I'm not going to give my opinion on that. But I definitely thought that Jack Shore found some success from the outside, using his long jab, keeping Ricky Simon away from him in round 1. With a couple of grappling exchanges, and he kind of just fell into those grappling exchanges again in round 2. And the danger of it, and that's what Ricky Simon is always going to look to do, is break off the clinch and land some of those big power shots that he has. And he clipped Jack Shore right on the temple, and like you said, that was it. Like, he was completely out of sorts when that submission went in. Ricky Simon didn't even have to kind of adjust himself or move into side position. He had a good enough squeeze to kind of get the arm triangle, which was good on him. But yeah, I think it'll be back to the drawing board for Jack Shore. He'll learn a lot of lessons from that fight. He could have fought much better. I thought he performed much better in his previous fight than he did here. A lot of distractions before the fight, him wanting to fight on UFC London.
That was too much. There was too much talk. There was too much bullshit. I think it was the Q&A on one of the shows I was talking on this week, and I was saying, look, he was buried in one card, he was going to be buried in another card. Put the head down, fight and talk about it. I think a lot of people, a lot of these, wannabes, podcasters and all talking about it, put the fucking head down and fight. Don't be listening to that bullshit. Don't be fucking buying into that. You have a fight in front of you. You have a top rated, what was he, number 12 or 13 ranked fighter in the world in front of you. That's a big opportunity. That's a big fight. Just because it's not happening in a neighbouring fucking country. I thought that short win.
I was saying it on the preview show. I thought he should have been on it, but I think, it's
he should have been, but still and all, you have the big opportunity. Jesus Christ, go out and perform the way you need to perform. Don't be complaining about it.
It's our position where we can say, if we feel that he deserves it. But I seen comments from his camp, and I know that he probably wasn't too happy about the situation too. And I also said on the preview shows that, it is what it is now. Yeah. The match is there in front of him, and he has to concentrate on the task at hand. And unfortunately,
look what happened.
He fell up short tonight. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, if you can't deal with something small like that, something really, look, it was something meaningless really that was made big, and with no real need to be. What is the difference between being buried in the middle of the UFC London card, where he probably would have been between being buried in this card? Do you know what? It's probably actually harder because you don't have the support and all of that, and you're fighting a very, very good guy. Fighting that very good guy should be enough. I just think it all played into it, and I think it was a bad night for Jack Shore, but I think he needs to get a lot of that bullshit out of his head, come back here and be the best Jack Shore that he can be. Let's run through some of the rest of the card as well. There was some great fights on it. 2 decisions to start it off. Emily Ducote and Dustin Stuffolds both won their big right hand knockout for Dustin Jacoby. Then Bill Algeo got a great win over Herbert Burns after nearly getting submitted, and Herbert Burns just I see here on Tapology they have an exhaustion.
He got carried out in the arms of his brother from the octagon.
It was like the Titanic or something. Coming out of there was mad.
Like a fella was after having too much to drink at an early afternoon, he had to be carried out of the place.
That'll be TJ Reid after about 55 minutes.
Hey, easy tiger.
We won't start that again. And then we had Puniele Sariano with a very good win there against Dacia Langiambula. I gave him to win by submission. He almost had him. He almost had that guillotine, but his coaches told him not to go for it, which to me was fucking bizarre. You have the opportunity to win the fight, go for the fucking guillotine in that position he was in anyway, but anyway, he didn't go for it. Very good performance though by Lauren Murphy. Miesha Tate was very slow. I thought she was really slow at the start, and she never got back into the fight until late in it, where she started landing some okay stuff. But this is a fight. Look, coming into this fight, I thought Lauren Murphy would land more strikes than her, and I thought she'd be busier. But I thought Tate might hurt her more, and it was not the other way around necessarily. But Tate was landing less and getting hurt more, and Lauren Murphy was hurting more and landing more as well. Tate couldn't really hurt her with her takedowns or grappling or anything like that. It was just a decisive win for Lauren Murphy. I think it was a combination of Murphy probably looking better than she's ever looked, and Tate probably looking worse than she's ever looked. It was a real kind of turning point fight for this, for Murphy and for Tate. I think Tate will probably retire after this.
Yeah, I mentioned that on Twitter too. There are people coming at me for it, but I mean, the game has passed Miesha Tate by. She has nothing to prove in the sport anymore. She's a pioneer of women's mixed martial arts and martial arts in general, like I said before. And it's like, what is left for her? What has she left to prove? I think what you said, maybe stepping away might be the best opportunity for her. She tried to go back at bantamweight. It didn't work out for her. She tried it now at flyweight. Hasn't worked out for her. And like what you said, the fight went how I thought it was going to go for Miesha Tate, but it went like that for Lauren Murphy tonight, and Tate was pretty busted up, and Lauren Murphy definitely deserved the win. And it's sad. Look, Miesha Tate lost the step. She looked slow. She didn't look like she was putting Lauren Murphy in any kind of danger in that fight, really. She was unable to initiate any grappling exchanges, and that's it. She has been around for a long ass time. She doesn't know anybody anything, Miesha Tate, and I would like to see her hang it up now for good.
Yeah. Lauren Murphy called out the winner of Manon Fiorot against Jessica Andrade. Fight that's not actually happening because Jessica Andrade pulled out when she just called out Fiorot altogether.
She could have got on that card, yeah.
Yeah, she could have. But it looks like Fiorot is going to fight UK again, so the winner of that probably makes sense as well at this stage. Shane Burgos and Charles Jourdain put on a really good fight as well. There was a 10-8 in that fight, which some people were complaining about, but I'm like, I want to see more 10-8s again, lads. Don't complain about something you should probably be wishing for. So I'm happy enough with that. It was a very good fight. But what about Matt Schnell versus Sumo Dejari?
Oh my god,
this is one of the best fights I've ever seen. It was just
unbelievable.
Matt Schnell was almost finished about 13 times. He was out on his feet. He was done. He was gonzo. And then he came back and Sue was just getting destroyed. Probably should have been stopped, if we're being honest. It might have even been stopped for Schnell before that, who knows. But it was just a mad back and forth in the second round. And Matt Schnell ended up getting him with, it was a triangle choke in the end. He actually choked him out. And there's a great photo going around where he's kind of standing up as Sue was on the ground, just kind of laid out. We can't do this justice in words. If you haven't seen this fight, you need to go and watch it, especially the second round. This is one of the greatest rounds of all time. Fight of the year candidate, round of the year candidate, comeback of the year candidate, an unmerciful fight. You're going to have to sing the song now and play Sir Graham here, Ian. But what did you think of the fight?
Ooh, Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell probably can't smell a whole lot after that fight because his nose is busted up. But it was absolutely phenomenal fight. I was actually watching it on the stream with Harry, and the two of us were absolutely freaking out watching it. I mean, that's why we love this sport. Like, that's the fight. Like that, watching two guys battle back, watching the heart that both fighters had. You know, like Sumujari didn't have the best first rounds either. Came back out, started like initiating his game plan, fighting at length, landed some monster shots, monster punches, monster elbows on Matt Schnell. Looked like he was gone. Matt Schnell has a cast iron jaw because he was taking everything from Sumujari, and his knees only buckled a couple of times. He was wobbled a couple of times, but he never fell. And I mean, I sometimes words can't describe how good a fight was. Like you said, it's just, that's a fight you're going to be showing somebody who wants to get into mixed martial arts sometime down the line. You're going to throw that on, and that's just as an exciting as fight as you'll ever see in there. And hashtag fly never die.
That is a fact. It probably put people off from going into mixed martial arts.
I mean, like the end scene, the picture you were talking about, and I said it to Harry at the time, I said, that's like a scene from a murder scene. Like,
really,
you know what I mean?
It really was.
Insane. Like Sumujari just completely unconscious. Matt Schnell covered in blood, the referee stuck in the middle of him. It's just like unbelievable stuff. Like, I mean, I couldn't get enough of that fight.
It was very good. It was absolutely brilliant. Li Jingliang then, Jianglang, according to my girl Crooklyn, I laugh every time I hear it. It's brilliant. But great comeback win here. Not comeback in terms of the fight itself, but comeback in terms of his career, I suppose, after losing to Chimaev. This was another one where it was kind of the young guy looked young and the older guy looked old. Kind of, I thought Salikov looked very slow. Although he did okay at the start, but towards the end of the fight, I think Lee really took away.
Salikov is a tricky customer in there.
He can do it all, can't he?
Yeah, he fights at, like I was saying to I was saying to Harry when we were watching it, was like he's an old wily veteran. He just knows everything that to do in there. Fighting that distance away from Li Jingliang, and you know, obviously staying away from the dangerous punches and the power of Li Jingliang. And I think, you know, he lulls a guy into a kind of a pace that he thinks, you know, is going to work, and then he explodes with his spinning attacks, explodes with his punches. But in the end, Lee got the job done. He found a way to win. And, you know, that's a good win against a tricky opposition. Like Salikov is no joke. He's 38 now. He's at the end of his tether, but a difficult task for anyone there in the welterweight division. And it was a good win and a good bounce back win for Lee after pretty much getting embarrassed against Khamzat Chimaev. Yeah,
and there's the thing about that at that weight class as well, 170, there's plenty of good fights there. And, you know, he could pick up whoever it might be. There's probably going to be a good fight for him there. So looking forward to seeing his next one. Then Amanda Lamish against Michelle Waterson Gomez. Two very odd finishes in the main event and the co-main event. This was the co-main event. I actually thought Michelle Waterson Gomez. When did you become Waterson Gomez as well? It feels like an awful mouthful that is Waterson Gomez. But
she only became Waterson Gomez to me like one day ago. To be honest,
she only came to me in the middle of the fucking fight. I was like, let's start calling her MWG. I like that, but I'm going to call her Waterson if that's okay. I'll call Ian Gary as well. You know, we'll keep it even between them.
Keep it simple.
We'll keep it simple. But Waterson was doing better than I thought. Honestly, I thought she was going to get banged out here by Amanda Lemas, but she didn't. She was doing okay. She was landing a couple of shots, but then when Lemas threw the power, you could see the difference in power. You really could see it here, but it didn't really tell, I suppose, and it got into round 2, and the first round was relatively close. Lemas probably did win it, but in the second round she obviously got caught in the guillotine, the submission. Kevin McDonald, the referee, was on the wrong side to see a tap. Now, he wasn't necessarily on the wrong side, I don't think. He was looking at one hand, she tapped with the other hand. Lemas let the submission go, and Waterson stood up and was like, or kind of didn't stand up, but went to her knees and was like, what's after happening? Kevin McDonald's, what's happening? Lemas is what's happening? And in Waterson, Gomez said, I tapped, which alleviated all the problems. All class, great stuff for her, because she clearly did tap.
There was a spell of 3 seconds where everyone was confused, and I was confused, and I was like, oh no, I hope that this is not going to happen right now, because this is a mess. But credit to Waterson for admitting that she tapped. Credit to Lemos for letting go of the submission when she felt her tapped as well. A lot of fighters wouldn't do it in that case. A lot of fighters are taught to fight until the ref pulls you off, but she probably saved Waterson from possibly going to sleep or something like that, because Kevin McDonald was, as you said, on the wrong side. But the fight itself was, it was a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be for Lemos. I thought that Waterson was leaving herself wide open for the overhand right throughout round 1 and into round 2. I think that Lemos was making that read. I think she kind of got caught by a little bit of a surprise by the takedown in round 1, but she made no mistakes in round 2 when Waterson, you can tell the way she wrapped that on super quickly and locked it in, that they were obviously drilling that like hell during her camp. And you just know sometimes when a choke is on and when a guillotine is on, and that was one of the times where you kind of knew it was all over.
100%. If it down as a guillotine choke, that should be a verbal submission, really, shouldn't it? She didn't tap she tapped to the guillotine choke, but the fight didn't end to the tap to the guillotine choke. The fight ended to the verbal submission afterwards. Now that's me being very pedantic, but yeah, we can leave it there.
That's the Sherdog side coming out. You're there now. You'll be coming in trying to take submission wins away from Lemos.
She's 11-2 again. She's not 12-2 anymore. She's back to 11-2. Go ahead. Right. In the middle of the card as well, just briefly, because we'll be talking about this a lot. They announced that Charles Oliveira is going to be fighting Islam Makhachev. And my initial thoughts on that are, Jesus Christ, that's going to be some fight, because it answers all questions. That's what we want in mixed martial arts from 1993 to 2022. We want questions answered. Who's going to win that? Is it going to be the unbelievable wrestling of Makhachev, or is it going to be the unbelievable jiu-jitsu mixed with this mad striking prowess that Charles Oliveira has delivered unto himself over the last few years? And I don't know the answer, but you know what? I can't fucking wait to find out who it's going to be, and it's a fight I'm really anticipating.
I cannot wait.
Yeah.
It's like what you always say, Shawnee. It's the best fighting the best when they are the best.
Exactly.
And that's one where, some of the big fights there, I'd have to be pacing around the sitting room there waiting for it to happen. I guarantee you that that's what's going to be happening ahead of this fight. It's just an absolutely fantastic matchup. So many questions going into it. Two really dominant, prominent grapplers going in there. It'll be interesting to see who can get their hands raised. I mean, it's hard to say. Gun to my head right now, leaning a little bit more towards Makhachev, to be honest. But I mean, I will be looking at it a lot more closely over the next couple of months, and opinions change and things change. But credit with the right fight happened there, because there was a lot of questions being asked in the lightweight division, and I know we did on the podcast last week. We asked a couple of those questions because nobody was matched up, but this is the right fight that should be happening in the lightweight division. It's the two best in the division right now, and we're going to find out who is the absolute best in October on Fight Island. I cannot fucking wait.
Absolutely, can't wait. Coming up this week, you're doing a UFC London preview. Is there something else as well? Is that ready to be announced? Can you announce it here? Will we wait?
Yeah, we're going to do the preview midweek as always, and next week we're actually going to do a live watch along for the entire UFC London card. Myself and Harry and Spencer will be on, and maybe yourself might pop on for a little bit as well. Yeah, and maybe Graham if you fancies hopping in for a while, and maybe a couple of special guests too that we'll maybe hold off on making official just yet. But it's definitely be worth it. It'll be on the YouTube channel over on SevereMMA. Everyone can come and join, ask questions and make comments, and we'll have a bit of crack and watch the fights together, and we'll see what happens.
Beautiful. Tune into that. It'll be free up on our YouTube, as Ian says. Preview show free every week as well. Patreon, though, you have to pay for that. It's only a $5. It's not too bad, and you get a month for that $5. Actually, it's $4.50, so it's not too bad. Patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. And also, while you're there, while you have the credit card out, head on over to eatallreal.com. Use the promo code SevereMMA, and you can get 15% off those magical bars and the peanut butter and the sunglasses and everything they have. Great stuff all together there. Up Limerick. We'll see you all next week.
Monkey Kenny, up the cats. Let's go. That's it. This could be the last time myself and Sean have a conversation.
That fucking
there could be no talking. There could be serious jibes thrown over at each other.
There'll be dates.
Any bets?
I know there'll be debts, there'll
be debts, all right. There'll be debts, all right. God almighty, there could be 2 heart attacks, one from me or one from you. Maybe
Jesus Christ. That could be. Right, everyone, enjoy the All-Ireland final. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Dean. Follow him over at O'Neill MMA. Go over and listen to the Old Triangle as well, and subscribe over on SoundCloud, Spotify, wherever it is. And if you're listening to this as well, click the subscribe button too. We'll leave it there. My name is Sean Sheehan. That was Ian O'Neill, and this was the Severe MMA podcast. See you next Tuesday or Sunday when it comes out.